right, so next up we have Annette Hadaway. She's going to be joining us online with a presentation called Dialoging with Animals. Annette, after earning her Animal and Nature 1-year certification with Dr. Maya Kincaid, she realized her call was to teach animal communication. She invited people from Nepal to join Dr. Kincaid's classes, but challenges like unstable internet and power outages made participation difficult. This inspired her to focus on teaching animal and nature communication in rural areas where wild animals and captive elephants often reach out to humans who haven't yet learned to listen. Since 2021, she has expanded her teaching to children and aims to share this innate ability with learners worldwide. She also continues to practice and study captive elephant foot care. Would you please help me welcome Annette Hadaway? Thank you so much.
Thanks, Renee. That compost song's going to be stuck in my head. It was really fun. Thank you, Paige. Could you take me off the spotlight and return to gallery view? Because we're all going to participate and I'll be able to see more people. I might need help if people raise their hands and I don't see them on their screen. But we're going to learn how to dialogue with animals today. And we do have a short amount of time, and I do want everybody that has interest and that wants to ask questions after the conference, please feel free to email me. You can reach me through my website, AnnetteHadaway.com. And also, it might be handy to have something to write with and a piece of paper, or if you type in your phones, that's cool too. The animals share with us that we all have the innate ability to communicate in this way, to dialogue with them. They also shared with us many times in class that it's time we humans realize who we are and what we are capable of, and that our existence is all about love. And, maybe you might think of somebody you know, friend, family member, or maybe you're thinking about somebody that you just met or you just know as an acquaintance. And then a couple minutes later, you might receive a text or a phone call from that person. That's an example of telepathy. And think of animal communication as speaking with a human on a mobile. You don't have to be there right with them in the physical. In fact, the first animal that we're going to communicate with is a friend of mine named Fulmaya Kali, and she's a captive working elephant in Nepal. So does anybody have any experience with animal communication that they'd like to share before we get started, or have any questions?
I'll share. I'm Danny from Climate Healers, and I actually trained in animal communications some time ago. Had a lot of success with it. It was a lot of fun, and now I feel like I don't even need to process to connect, but I really enjoy it. Thank you.
Thanks, Danny. It is a lot of fun. I can remember when I was first starting, and I would just try so hard, and I'd be like, tell me a story. And nothing, I wouldn't hear anything. And the animals do encourage us to not take yourself so seriously, have some fun with it, maybe make it a game. And so I totally have experienced what you shared, Danny. Brittany, do you have a question or a comment?
I could say my interactions with animals with communication. Wait, can you hear me? Yeah, you can hear me. Okay.
Yeah.
So, sometimes if there's like spiders like in my room or something, instead of killing them, which is what most people do, I'll like kind of lead them and help them to where they need to get to and on their journey. And I'll kind of like point in the right direction for them if they need to.
That's awesome.
Yeah, there you go.
I encourage you next time you're doing a spider rescue to say hi and notice what you notice. You might hear words back. You might see a picture, or you might just have a knowing. Communication can come to us in different ways, and typically those 3 ways. If you're brushing your teeth and you think of an animal, if one just comes to mind, say, hi, how are you? I'm sitting here brushing my teeth. Just start having conversation, and then stop to listen and notice what you notice. Animal communication comes very quickly. The animals share with us that they know what questions we're going to ask before we get them out of our mouths. They are masters at telepathic communication. They've been doing this a very long time. They communicate with each other all around the world, with all beings of nature. And it can be very effortless if we don't try so hard. Does anybody else have any questions or anything they'd like to share?
Go ahead.
Brittany, I'm sorry. We have a comment from Amit in the chat who said he'd like to learn how to connect with animals, particularly with his house mouse. That he's kept food to let them know that he's kept food for them, so they stop chewing on the partition board under the sink.
Well, there's one thing. Just because we can communicate with animals doesn't mean we can tell them what to do. And sometimes negotiations can be successful and sometimes not. But you can typically find out by dialoguing with that being why they're doing that behavior. In class, we talk to like fleas or ticks, nuisances ants in the house, will you go away? But actually dialoguing with them and having communication with them, you can maybe understand why they're doing the behavior. Maybe there's things you could do to stop the behavior, or else maybe we can learn to live in coexistence with all beings of nature. And I'm sorry, I'm pet sitting and I have a cat that normally doesn't want to engage, and Wolfie wants to engage right now, which doesn't surprise me since we're doing animal communication. So does anybody else have any questions before we jump in and talk with our first animal? Brittany?
I was just gonna say that sometimes with the spiders, I'll wave hi, and if they wave back, then I know the communication went through.
That's so cool. Hi, PJ.
Hi. Annette, it's good to see you. I wonder about how do I know that I'm not just thinking about what I think the animal is saying to me and whether it's really the animal saying to me, because I open up, I feel love for the animal, or I'm asking, where are you from? Or how old are you? To the little possum that I found, and that sort of thing. And if I got the impression this was a young possum, and I found out later it was an old possum. So I really messed up. Maybe I wasn't in a place of asking. I don't know.
Or maybe that possum thinks of themselves as young. You might not have messed up at all. I learned that I assumed a lot of things about animals before I started talking with them? And that's a really good question. I do want to share that I asked that question to Dr. Kincaid when I first started. Lots of people in class asked that question. How do I tell the difference between my voice and the animal's voice? But I've taught dozens of children and not one child asks that question. And I find that really interesting. And we are given tools to clarify by just asking more questions. If you're not sure, you could say, did I hear you right? Okay, you seem younger, but you look older. Maybe ask a yes or no question at first. And so you're just waiting to hear yes or no. And then ask another yes or no question and another yes or no question. And have fun with it. I'm hearing this right now, and it might seem silly, but or it's like you could sing a song, like ask question in a song, make it fun, make it a game. Did I answer that question okay?
Yes. Yes, thank you.
Gabriella, would you like to ask a question?
Yeah. Okay, so I live in British Columbia, Canada, and our native birds around me are crows and stellar jays. They're like blue jays, but we call them stellar jays here. And I feed them every day. I mean, I've been feeding them for years on my balcony. I have learned not to throw it close to the street now because the squirrels get them and they run across the street. But anyway, my question is, I know that they're regular birds that come and visit me, but they still seem to be scared of me. They fly away when I come around, even though I say, okay, I'm coming out now, I'm going to feed you. And they're still scared of me. And I don't know why they don't feel the love that I have for them. Is there an answer to that, or?
Well, each being is different. So we would need to ask them what's seeming them to be scared. And that's something that we would have to ask them individually, just like, and you could do that and see what you hear. Like, just ask them like you asked me next time you're in their presence, or even if you don't see them, you could say, hey, why does it seem like you're scared when I come to you? I had a really wonderful experience with physical engagement, and not all the times animals are going to physically engage with you, or like, you and I are talking now and we have facial expressions because I know that you're hearing me or listening to me, and I know you because you're nodding your head. Some animals won't do that, but sometimes animals will. So try not to be put off by that, or even just ask them a question and like, why don't you engage physically with me? And they might explain why. So it's all about asking questions.
I will try this.
Every being is different as well. So I couldn't speak for all beings, just with the experiences I've had with individual beings of nature.
Okay, thank you.
Renee, did you have a question?
Well, yes. Thank you. I love this talk. I started communicating with animals at a very young age. And I remember one time my cat got really, really sick, and I just knew that if I put my hands on him, that he would be well. And he was like really, really bad. He couldn't move. And when I touched him I was a child. I was probably 6. And the cat, I could feel the energy coming back in his body, and he got up and walked off. And I just kind of like, oh, that's what's supposed to happen. And I didn't think anything of it, didn't think it was special or nothing. And then, as I began to communicate with animals all through my life, and then Rowdy Girl, the calf, it became real obvious to me that there was a connection going on that was, because I was an adult. And there was a real connection because she was communicating to me so that I could see all the animals individually. And then later, she was the one that told me about the first flood. Rowdy Girl and I have a real connection. Like even like right now, I can just in a moment communicate through Rowdy Girl, and I become her channel all the time. And so I just really am glad that you're bringing this up, and I just want to continue to manifest, the fact that we're all animal. We can all access that animal communication, through us. Yeah. Thank you.
Thank you for sharing that, Renee. And that's what the animals share with us, that it's nothing that we have to do, that we're all connected, and at any moment, at any time. In fact, you don't need pictures. You don't have to meditate. In fact, when I started learning, I forced myself to practice animal communication in the most chaotic, noisy places, restaurants, diners, festivals, just so I could just do it at any moment. Donna, do you have a question? Would you like to share something?
Yes, thank you. I fascinated when you said you could try to communicate with the animals when they're not there. And I'm wondering if it's anything like communicating with people who have passed. Is that similar to that, or is that unrelated?
Nope, it's all related. We can talk to beings that have transitioned, animals, and people too. A couple weeks into class, I had that same thought. I'm like, well, if we can do this with animals, can we do this with people? And I asked that question out loud, and I'm like, yep. And then, it's really fun. So thank you for asking that question.
Thank you.
Let's see. Does anybody else have any questions? Okay. Let's jump in and speak with our first animal. And her name is Fulmaya Kali. In Nepal, when we're talking about female elephants, they say the word Kali after the first name. So her name's Fulmaya, and just reach out to her in your inside voice, your reading voice, and just notice what you notice about her personality. And maybe just write down the first words or few words or whatever you hear when you first reach out and say hi. Like, I encourage you to say, hi, Fulmaya. Thanks for coming today. Like, whatever you want to share. And what kinds of feelings or personality traits when you're with Fulmaya. And if you don't hear anything right away, it's okay. If you don't, you might see a picture, or you might have a knowing. I was teaching a group of children in India, and I noticed one young boy in class, he wasn't participating, and I noticed him kind of looking frustrated and withdrawn. So I asked him if I could work with him one-on-one, if he was comfortable with that with the group. And he's like, sure. And he goes, teacher, I can't hear what the rest of the children hear. And I go, well, they might show you a picture, or you might have a knowing. And then he interrupted me. He goes, that elephant had shown me a picture. And he was so excited, and he participated through the rest of the workshop. So it can, and you can also, if you feel like you're not getting anything or hearing anything, you can say, can you please speak louder? I remember so many times I would ask animals, 5 or 10 times, or if I have some fear about a certain situation, I'm talking to an animal about my fear. I'm like, are you sure? And I'll ask them so many times, and they don't mind. They've told me they don't mind. I'm like, are you annoyed at me that I'm asking you so many times? Ask me as many times as you want. I've learned through my experience that animals have so much love for us. They want to have us succeed. They know we can get through this time. And just think of how the world would be changed if everybody knew their natural ability to communicate with animals. And animals actually would like a seat at the table. They would like to be consulted with, like, how can we work through this? They do want to engage with us. They tell us that they're talking to us all the time. And you know, when I started learning animal communication, I was like, oh my gosh, I've been doing this my whole life. I just didn't realize it until now. And I hear my students say that again and again and again. In fact, I was recently in Sri Lanka, and I was gifted the opportunity to speak to a village that's experiencing human-elephant conflict, lots of human-elephant deaths. And I was teaching animal communication to them, and I wasn't with them that long, maybe 90 minutes. And I was teaching, they didn't speak a lick of English. They all spoke Sinhala. And the monk that invited me to his temple, which they all came to worship, he was translating. And before I left, he said, they want me to tell you something, that they realized through this class that they've been doing this all along, but it took them till this class to realize that they could communicate in this way. And so I'm excited for you all's journey into animal communication. So would anybody like to share anything that they are experiencing of Fulmaya? Like, does anybody want to share a personality trait that you heard or saw or you just know? Like, is she outgoing, withdrawn, bossy, happy, sassy?
I'll share something.
Sure.
So, do I need to turn this on? Okay. So when you first asked me that, I immediately connected with her, and it was as if my belly and her spine, like it was an image of my belly on her spine from inside of her. She was like showing me that she was able to like be whatever I needed to be. All I had to do is imagine my being, the front part of my body, all the lineup of the chakras on her spine from her insides. I don't know what that means. I just know I saw it and I felt it. That's it.
Thank you for sharing, Renee. It sounds like you might have gotten a new friend. You can ask her now or later, if you, like, were you showing me like a chakras, or what were you trying to tell me, or whatever you can think to start dialoguing back and forth with her about that experience. Allison, would you like to share?
Yes, Annette. I wanted to share with you, you had requested earlier about the possibility of having an ongoing conversation after this session. And so we did come up with a solution for anyone who's interested in continuing this conversation with Annette later on. And we wondered if this will work for you, Annette. In just a couple of minutes, we have another speaker who also is interested in having a breakout room. So how would it be if in 30 minutes after Brittany Bunk speaks that we open up 2 breakout rooms that people can select from, or they can just be in other words, there will be 3 options. Go to your breakout room, go to Brittany Bunk's breakout room, or be in the general group. That would be 30 minutes from now. Do you like that idea?
Sure.
Okay, good. So everyone who's here, in about 30 minutes, you'll be given a choice to join Annette's breakout room, and you'll be able to, well, tell us what people would do in the breakout room, Annette.
We would just talk to different animals for about a half an hour, and just so you can experience the different personalities, ask any questions, get to know some other animals all around the world. And just practice. That's all it takes, is just some practice to build confidence. And also you can ask me any questions you have.
Okay, good. So I'm glad that works for you. So,
And thank you everybody for having interest in coming today. And it's really exciting. More and more people are waking up to the possibilities of communicating with nature. And I really appreciate everyone.
thank you,
Thank
Annette.
you so much. That was so amazing. I love this conversation.